I'm Neil, and welcome to Dreaming of Chess Mastery, a channel where the world of adult chess improvement is picked apart and examined. One of my favourite procrastinating techniques is to read book reviews. Of course, it'd be much better if I actually read the books, and in this case, I confess the book that provoked today's video is one or series that I haven't read. I've seen it and looked at example pages, but that's about as far as I've got. The series is Artur Yusupov's 9-volume chess training series. You might be aware of it. By all accounts, all the reviews, tremendously comprehensive, fantastic material, and if you study it the way he suggests, I have no doubt that great improvement will follow. So the reviews are, generally speaking, full of nothing but praise. I suppose there's one little criticism where some reviewers question his rating strength that each book is aimed at. And they suggest that perhaps the first series of 3, the series is written in 3 sets of 3. The first one aimed at sort of 1500 strength, the next one 1800, and the last one sort of 2000-ish up to 2200. And some reviewers suggest that actually the material is much more difficult than Yusupov suggests. Perhaps it's those ratings for the fabled Russian schoolboy apply, but for the average Westerner, maybe not so much. But amongst the comments, I read one which is a more pointed and direct criticism of this question of standard or playing strength. And the criticism was basically that the examples that he gives are of tremendously varying level of difficulty. And I can see from a pedagogical perspective why this is a problem. Of course, you want your test material, your training exercises, to be of a fairly reasonable, even standard. When I think back to my days as a maths teacher, you tried to give people graded exercises that built on what they knew and were in a sort of Goldilocks spot that pushed them but not too much. So having examples that jump all over the place in terms of level of difficulty, well, that's problematic and a bit of a drawback. I started thinking about it, and I couldn't get away from a question that was plaguing me. And the question is this. The writer of this criticism suggests that the examples are of vastly varying levels of difficulty. But what if it's the other way around? Perhaps the examples are of a fairly uniform standard, and the person who's all over the place in terms of ability level is the person doing the examples. What I mean is that we think of ourselves as I'm an 1800 player or a 1500 player or a 2000 strength player, whatever it might be. Most of us consider ourselves to be slightly underrated, but as Jan Marcus points out in Under the Surface, well, we can't all be underrated. Mathematically, that doesn't work. But we think of this rating as being some kind of identity. I am a 2000 strength player. But actually, if we dig a little more deeply, I think what we'll find is that our playing strength varies enormously depending on the challenge with which we're faced. So in some positions, if I think of myself, perhaps when I'm attacking on kings castled on opposite wings, I'm very strong. Defending those kind of situations, I'm much weaker. In certain types of middle game positions, I play with great assurance. In other kinds, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's not the position where the difficulty level is changing, it's my ability to play the position in question. How does this come about? Well, if you think about it, we begin our chess journey knowing absolutely nothing about anything. So we're a fairly even standard across the board, weak at absolutely everything. And if you consider chess players who really take that journey as far as it can go, the sort of very extreme end of top-class professionals, well, whilst they may be very different in their styles of play, they are actually incredibly adept at any sort of position. Think of two famous world champions, Mikhail Tal and Tigran Petrosyan. Tal was the swashbuckling, attacking genius, and Petrosyan was the defender par excellence, the master at prevention. As one grandmaster said, he's thought of what I might do before I have and prevented it. And it's, you kind of eventually get this idea in your head, carry it out and discover that it's already very much under lock and key. And so there we are. So thinking of those two world champions as sort of polar opposites, the fact of the matter is that they were both brilliant at calculating, tactically incredibly sharp, and of course Tal was very aware of the strategic principles of chess, and he says as much in his wonderful autobiography that I can't recommend enough. He'd say, well, when people said, like, how could Tal make such a move? Isn't he aware of the basic principles of chess? Well, of course he is, but there's a reason for it. And well, the point that I'm trying to make, and I think you've got it, is these top players have a great deal of ability in every imaginable scenario, and beginners have no ability in pretty much everything equally across the board. The rest of us in the middle are a jumble of incoherence. We play some positions quite well, and others, we play as weakly as chess players at the very beginning of their chess journey. So, putting all that together, I think it seems to me that what we need to recognize when we look at a book where we find some ideas quite easily and others we struggle, these are giving us insights into our own personal weaknesses. The problem isn't the book, the problem is us. And I guess we can generalize that. If we think of our personalities, it's easy to say, well, I'm this kind of person. But we're that kind of person in a certain type of situation. Again, I'm going to use myself as a good example here. People would say to me, Neil, you're really impatient. Yes, that's true. But when I was a school teacher, a lot of the parents would thank me for the patience I have when dealing with their children who'd always struggled with maths. And I sort of ended up becoming the go-to guy for kids who were really at the weaker end of the learning spectrum in our school, and I was incredibly patient with them. And that's an interesting sort of insight. I am not a patient person or an impatient person. There are other things at play that make me act out in a certain kind of way in a certain type of scenario. I think that's the big takeaway for me for that criticism. I have to look at these books and start thinking about the lessons that I'm learning being much deeper. It's not just that I got the problem right or wrong, but the problem is giving me wonderful diagnostic information about deeper issues with how I play chess, and sometimes without how I behave in a much wider context. So that's it for today. I think I'm going to do another video before next week, perhaps on the weekend, a sort of summarizing video, because my goodness, it's the end of April already. April the 30th is tomorrow. So that's something to look forward to. Well, the end of the month, look forward to. It's just a fact. Another video, well, that'll be just a fact too. So until the next time, I trust you're enjoying your chess, your lives filled with joy, and from a sunny Brazil, ciao.